All right, so you wanted to explore the Roman invasion of Britain.
In 43 AD.
43 AD. Okay, so picture this.
Yeah.
The Britain that we know today was like this distant, almost mythical island
Right.
on the edge of the mighty Roman Empire.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what would it even take to conquer such a place?
Yeah.
Well, we've got excerpts from a podcast with historian Duncan May, author of Echolands,
Yes.
to help us unpack this fascinating period.
So before we get into the invasion itself,
Okay.
it's really important to understand that Rome's interest in Britain wasn't just like a sudden impulse, you know?
Yeah.
Julius Caesar's expeditions in 55 and 54 BC, while not full-blown conquests, really laid the groundwork.
They were kind of dipping their toes.
Yeah, exactly. Testing the currents before taking the plunge.
Yeah.
And Caesar, you know, he was a master strategist, both militarily and politically. Yeah.
He even brought hostages back to Rome. Not to be enslaved, but to be educated. In Roman customs and ways of thinking.
So he was like planting seeds of Roman influence within British society itself. That's a long game strategy.
It's a long game.
If I've ever heard one.
Yeah.
But what was Britain like before the legions marched in? I mean, what kind of world were the Romans stepping into?
Picture a land of diverse tribes. Some more familiar with Roman culture than others. Because of, you know, those earlier interactions in trade, especially in the Southeast. You'd find Roman goods, ideas, even a taste for Roman luxuries making their way into British life.
So it wasn't completely alien to the Romans.
Not at all.
There were already these threads.
There were threads.
Of connection.
Yeah.
Perhaps even some Britons who saw
the advantages of aligning with Rome.
Right. Yeah, okay.
But then fast forward to 43 AD.
Okay.
And the situation changes dramatically.
Yeah.
You've got Emperor Claudius, a relatively new emperor, who desperately needed a military victory to solidify his power and image.
That age-old game of politics and image-making.
It never goes away.
Even in ancient Rome.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Claudius saw Britain, this island on the edge of the known world, as his opportunity for glory.
Yeah.
He chose Aulus Plotius, a seasoned and capable general, to lead the invasion force. We're talking legions, cavalry, engineers.
Wow.
A full-scale military operation.
This wasn't just a hop across a river.
Not at all.
This was a major undertaking, crossing the English Channel in 43 AD.
Yes.
I can't even imagine.
It was a terrifying ordeal.
Yeah. The journey itself across often stormy seas was fraught with danger and hardship. We even have accounts of Roman soldiers, hardened veterans, being terrified by the prospect of the crossing.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Seasickness, cramped conditions, and just the constant fear of the unknown. It must have felt like sailing off the edge of the world.
And to make matters worse, there was a mutiny.
Wait, the Roman army mutinied?
They did?
They just refused to go.
They flat out refused to board the ships.
Wow.
The fear was that it was real and that widespread.
Yeah.
It took a freedman, Narcissus, to finally shame them into setting sail.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
A freedman rallying the legions to invade a foreign land.
Yeah.
Talk about a powerful figure. So they finally overcome their fear.
Yeah.
They set sail.
They set sail.
Where do they land?
Based on the archaeological evidence and logistical considerations, the most likely landing site is Richborough in Kent.
Richborough.
Yeah.
A strategic location
Yeah.
with a natural harbor
Right.
and relatively easy access to the mainland.
Exactly.
It makes sense.
It makes sense.
From a military standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the archaeological discoveries there, the remains of Roman fortifications, the artifacts they've unearthed, all point to its importance in the invasion.
So the Romans land.
They land.
At Richborough, ready to conquer.
Yeah.
But surely the Britons weren't just going to welcome them with open arms.
No, but Initially, they avoided direct confrontations with the legions.
Right.
They adopted a strategy of guerrilla warfare.
Okay.
Hit-and-run attacks.
Right.
Ambushes, disrupting Roman supply lines.
Classic guerrilla tactics, using the terrain to their advantage. And frustrating a larger, more conventional army.
Exactly. It was a brilliant strategy.
Yeah.
It played to the Britons' strengths.
Right.
They knew their land.
Yeah.
They were mobile. And they were determined to make the Romans pay for every inch of ground.
Wow.
But eventually, a major confrontation became inevitable.
So where did this clash of armies finally occur?
The first major battle, according to our sources, most likely took place at a river crossing. Probably the Medway River, although the exact location is still debated among historians.
A river crossing, a classic battleground throughout history.
Oh, yeah.
And here, the Britons used the terrain to their advantage.
They did.
Forcing the Romans to attack across the river.
Yeah.
Putting them at a disadvantage. But the Romans, under Plautius, were known for their tactical brilliance. How did they respond to this challenge?
Well, they employed a clever strategy.
Okay.
Utilizing a specialized unit.
Okay.
The Batavians.
Okay.
Known for their amphibious skills.
Amphibious troops.
Yeah.
In ancient Rome. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
What was their role in the battle?
The Batavians were tasked with a daring diversionary attack.
Okay.
They targeted the Britons' horses, creating chaos and drawing their attention away from the main Roman force.
So while the Britons are distracted by this sudden attack on their horses, the Roman legions are making their crossing. A classic pincer movement.
Classic.
Hitting the enemy from multiple directions. What happened next? Did the Romans achieve a decisive victory?
It was a fierce battle. Lasting 2 days with heavy casualties on both sides. But ultimately, the Romans, with their superior discipline and tactics, prevailed. They pushed the Britons back, forcing them to retreat.
But their troubles weren't over yet.
Not over yet.
After all, there was another, even more formidable river barrier looming. The Thames.
Yes.
And the Britons were determined to make another stand at the Thames.
At the Thames.
Again, forcing the Romans into this difficult river crossing. This must have been an even greater challenge.
It was.
The Thames is a much wider river
than
the Medway. How did the Romans manage to cross?
This is where the story takes a rather intriguing turn. Our main source for this period, the Roman historian Dio, mentions a bridge that the Romans used to cross the Thames.
A bridge. Now that raises a lot of questions.
It does.
Who built this bridge? Was it already there? Did the Romans construct it under enemy fire?
It's a mystery.
That's perplexing.
It is perplexing. And it speaks to the mysteries that still surround this period of history. Could the Britons have built a bridge across the Thames? What does this tell us about their engineering capabilities?
Oh, these are questions that continue to fascinate historians.
And here's another twist in the tale.
Oh, yeah. It seems the Romans had some unexpected help in their campaign. Elephants.
Yes.
After the initial victories, Emperor Claudius himself decided to join the campaign in Britain.
He did.
Bringing with him a dramatic touch. War elephants.
War elephants.
War elephants marching through ancient Britain. Can you imagine the spectacle? The sheer size and power of these creatures must have been awe-inspiring.
Awe-inspiring.
And perhaps terrifying. To anyone who witnessed them. I mean,
it would have been a sight to behold. And remember, this was all part of Claudius's carefully orchestrated image as a triumphant military leader. This was meant to be a display of Roman power and might, designed to overawe the Britons.
So Claudius arrives.
He arrives.
With his elephants, ready for the final showdown.
Yeah.
What happens next?
Well,
do the Britons surrender? Do they fight to the bitter end?
It seems a mix of factors came into play, whether through military victories or prearranged agreements, and there's debate among historians about the exact sequence of events. 11 British kings surrendered to Claudius at Camalodunum, modern-day Colchester.
So this was a pivotal moment.
Absolutely.
A symbolic turning point. In the Roman conquest of Britain.
Pivotal.
And there's a rather poignant detail to this surrender. Some historians believe that this symbolic event may have taken place right beneath what is now a pub in Colchester.
It's amazing.
A pub built on a site where kings surrendered to a Roman emperor. That's an incredible thought. But I'm guessing this wasn't the end of the story.
Not at all.
The Roman conquest of Britain was far from over, wasn't it?
It was just the beginning of a long and complex story. Yeah, you're right. This was just the beginning. While the surrender of those 11 kings was a significant victory, it didn't mean that the whole of Britain just, fell into their lap.
So they'd secured a foothold.
They'd secured a foothold.
But the real work of conquest and, more importantly, control was still ahead of them.
Still ahead?
What was their strategy at this point?
Well,
did they just march north and try to conquer the whole island in one fell swoop?
Remember, the Roman army wasn't just this blunt instrument of conquest. It was also a tool
of political power. And Plautius, the general in charge, was a shrewd strategist.
He knew that overreaching could backfire.
Definitely.
Especially with Claudius back in Rome. Eager to claim the glory of the conquest. So instead of immediately pushing for total domination, Plautus focused on...
He focused on
consolidating Roman control.
Roman control over the southeast. Securing a line. Roughly from the Humber River to the Exe. Essentially, the area south of the Fosseway.
The Fosseway.
I've actually driven along parts of it. That's a Roman road, isn't it?
It is.
So are we talking about sort of frontier zone of Roman Britain?
It wasn't a hard and fast border in the way we might think of it today.
Right.
It's more accurate to say that this line marks the limit of direct Roman military control at that time. Beyond that, they relied on a different approach. Client kingdoms. Yes.
So these were essentially British tribes who decided to cooperate with Rome. Perhaps seeing the writing on the wall?
It was a strategic arrangement, both for the Romans and for these tribes. The client kingdoms acted as buffer zones, absorbing some of the pressure from the more rebellious tribes further north and west. They paid tribute to Rome, provided auxiliary troops when needed, and generally kept things quiet. In their territories.
Divide and conquer, or at least divide and manage. But I imagine there was always this underlying tension, this sense that these client kingdoms could turn against Rome.
Their loyalty was constantly being tested. Remember, they were walking a tightrope, balancing their own interests and ambitions against the demands of their Roman overlords.
And then there's the question of these other British tribes. The ones who refused to bend the knee to Rome. Were they a united front?
That's a great question.
Against the invaders?
Not quite. The Britons were far from a unified force. Different tribes had their own agendas, rivalries, and internal conflicts that sometimes predated the Roman arrival.
So a bit like a complex tapestry.
It is a complex tapestry.
Of alliances and rivalries shifting and changing.
All the time.
All the time.
A great analogy. For example, Brigantes, a powerful tribe in the north, became a Roman client kingdom. But they were constantly plagued by these internal power struggles. The Romans often found themselves drawn into these conflicts, trying to prop up their preferred leaders.
That sounds like a messy situation.
A very messy situation.
A lot of political maneuvering, intrigue. alongside the actual fighting.
The actual fighting.
And what about Wales?
Well,
I know the Romans eventually,
they eventually did.
conquered Wales.
Right.
But it wasn't an easy process, was it?
Not at all.
No.
The conquest of Wales turned into this brutal guerrilla war.
Wow.
Lasting for years.
Yeah.
The Romans used to open warfare.
Right.
On relatively flat terrain. Yeah. Found themselves dragged into this protracted and bloody conflict in the mountains and forests of Wales.
So even with their legions and their war elephants, the Romans weren't having it all their own way.
No, they weren't.
They were facing determined resistance. And their hold on Britain was far from secure.
It was far from secure.
And wasn't this the backdrop to Boudicca's famous revolt?
Boudicca's rebellion in 60 AD was a pivotal moment in the history of Roman Britain.
Yeah.
It nearly toppled Roman rule altogether.
And her story...
It's an amazing...
really highlights the volatility of this period.
Yeah.
The
simmering tensions.
Simmering tensions that could erupt into violence at any moment.
It's at any moment.
She's such a legendary figure.
Oh, yeah.
This warrior queen.
Yeah.
Who stood up to the might of Rome.
To the might of Rome.
It's a story that captures the imagination.
Yeah.
Even centuries later.
It does.
I'm guessing that's a story for another deep dive.
Absolutely.
But before we move on to Boudica, I want to circle back to those client kingdoms.
All right. Yeah.
We've talked about the tension and the potential for rebellion.
The potential for rebellion, right?
Did any of them actually rise up against Rome during this period?
Their loyalty was constantly tested, as we discussed. Yeah. And in 60 AD, that tension finally snapped.
Okay.
The Iceni, Boudicca's tribe, were one such client kingdom.
Right.
But after the death of their king, the Romans treated them brutally.
Okay.
They confiscated lands. They flogged Boudica.
Wow.
They raped her daughters.
That's horrifying.
It was horrifying.
It's no wonder they rebelled.
It was a spark that ignited a firestorm.
Right.
Boudica rallied the Iceni and other tribes who had suffered under Roman rule. Their rebellion was swift and brutal.
Wow.
Targeting Roman settlement and symbols of Roman power.
So the Romans found themselves facing a full-blown uprising.
A full-blown uprising.
Right in the heartland of their supposed control.
It was a serious challenge to their authority. Yeah. And for a while, it seemed like Boudica might actually succeed in driving the Romans out of Britain.
Okay, now I'm on the edge of my seat.
Yeah.
What happened next? Did the Romans manage to put down?
They did, but it was a close call.
Okay.
The Roman governor, Suetonius Paulinus, was a skilled commander.
Right.
He gathered his legions and met Boudica's forces in a decisive battle.
Okay.
Most likely somewhere in the Midlands, though the exact location is still debated among historians.
This must have been an epic clash.
It was an epic clash. According to the Roman historian Tacitus, Boudica's forces outnumbered the Romans.
Okay.
Perhaps by a factor of 3 or 4 to 1.
Those are some serious odds.
Serious odds.
How did the Romans manage to win?
They were outnumbered,
right.
But they had the advantage of discipline, training, and superior equipment.
Yeah.
They formed up in a tight formation, their shields interlocked, presenting a formidable wall of steel to the charging Britons.
Classic Roman tactic.
Classic Roman tactic.
Relying on their discipline and organization to overcome even superior numbers.
Exactly, and it worked.
Wow.
The Romans repelled the British onslaught, then launched a devastating counterattack, breaking their lines and routing their forces.
So it was a decisive victory for Rome.
It was.
But a tragic defeat.
A tragic defeat.
For Boudica.
Yes.
And her followers.
And her followers.
It was a turning point.
A turning point.
In the Roman conquest of Britain.
In the Roman conquest.
It demonstrated once again the power of Rome.
The power of Rome.
But it also revealed the depths of British resistance.
The British resistance.
The Romans may have won the battle.
They may have won the battle.
But the fight for control of Britain was far from over.
Far from over.
So this victory against Boudica while significant, didn't mean that the Romans could just rest on their laurels.
Yeah.
There were still challenges ahead.
There were absolutely still challenges ahead.
So the Romans, they'd weathered Boudicca's revolt.
Mm-hmm.
They continued pushing forward.
Yeah.
But did they ever truly conquer?
That's the question.
The whole island?
Yeah.
Did the legions ever reach
mm-hmm.
the northernmost parts
yeah.
of what we know today as Scotland?
Well, that's a question that has fascinated historians for centuries.
Yeah.
The simple answer is that while Roman influence reached far and wide, their direct military control had its limits.
So there were parts of Britain that remained stubbornly independent. Never fully bending to the will of Rome.
Precisely.
Okay.
You see, after Boudicca's rebellion, Roman attention turned northwards towards the territory of the Brigantes, a powerful confederation of tribes that controlled much of northern England.
So the Romans were determined
to
extend their reach further and further north. Despite the challenges they'd faced. What happened when they encountered the Brigantes?
Well, it wasn't a straightforward conquest. Initially, the Brigantes had been Roman allies, even providing troops to help suppress Boudicca's uprising.
Right.
But as the Roman presence grew, more imposing tensions inevitably arose.
It's that constant tension, I guess, between cooperation and resistance that seems to have defined
it does seem that
the Roman experience in Britain. Did the Brigantes ultimately resist Roman rule?
They did. And under their queen, Cartimandua, they put up a fierce fight. But internal divisions ultimately weakened their resistance. Cartimandua favored accommodation with Rome, while her former husband, Venutius, led a faction that fiercely opposed Roman expansion.
So a classic case of divide and conquer, with the Romans exploiting
those divisions,
internal divisions to their advantage. And by the late 70s AD, after years of conflict, the Romans had effectively subjugated the Brigantes and established a strong military presence. In northern England. So their reach was expanding, pushing further and further into territory that had once been considered beyond the edge of the Roman world. Did they stop there? Did they push into what we now call Scotland?
They pushed into Scotland under the governorship of Agricola, a skilled general and administrator. The Romans launched a series of campaigns into Scotland, culminating in the famous Battle of Mons Gropius in 83 or 84 AD.
Mons Gropius. It sounds like a battle straight out of a Roman epic.
Yeah.
What happened there?
So
was this the final showdown between the Romans and the unconquered tribes of the north?
A significant battle, for sure, and a Roman victory. But whether it represents a decisive conquest of Scotland is still debated among historians. Agricola's forces defeated the Caledonian tribes under their leader Calgacus. But the Romans never fully established permanent control over the far north.
So even with their military might, even after years of campaigning, there were parts of Britain that remained beyond their grasp. That's remarkable. What prevented them from conquering the whole island?
Well, it was likely a combination of factors. The terrain of northern Scotland with its rugged mountains and deep forests posed significant logistical challenges for a conventional army like the Roman legions.
And the tribes themselves?
Oh, yes.
The Caledonians and others were renowned for their ferocity. And their determination to defend their land.
Absolutely.
They were skilled warriors. Accustomed to fighting in their own terrain.
And they were willing
to make the Romans paid dearly for every inch of ground.
For every inch.
But there were also political considerations back in Rome that may have influenced the decision to halt the advance into Scotland.
Yeah.
So the fate of Britain wasn't just decided.
It wasn't just decided.
On the battlefields of the north.
Right.
But also in the halls of power.
In the halls of power.
Back in Rome.
Back in Rome.
Agricola.
Yeah. Despite
his successes in Britain.
Right.
Fell out of favor.
He did.
With the Emperor Domitian. And he was recalled to Rome.
Recalled to Rome.
In 85 A.D.
85 A.D.
Some historians believe.
Some do.
That Domitian was wary of Agricola's growing power and popularity.
His popularity.
And he may have seen further campaigns in Scotland as a potential risk.
A risk.
To his own authority.
To his own authority.
It's fascinating how these personal rivalries and power struggles back in Rome could shape the course of events in distant provinces.
Yeah.
Like Britain.
Like Britain.
So the Roman conquest of Britain, while ultimately successful in establishing a lasting presence, was never truly complete.
Never truly complete.
There were always limits.
Always limits.
To their power. Always challenges.
To their authority.
That's a key takeaway.
That's a key takeaway.
And it reminds us that history is rarely a simple story of winners and losers.
The
Roman conquest of Britain was a long and complex process.
Long and complex.
Full of twists and turns. Setbacks and triumphs. And its legacy continues to shape. Britain to this day. We see it in the ruins of Roman forts and cities scattered across the land. And the roads they built. And we still travel on. And in the very language we speak. It's been an incredible journey.
It has been.
Exploring this pivotal period in history.
The pivotal period.
From the initial landing of the legions to the fierce resistance of the Britons. The rise and fall of client kingdoms. The drama. Of Boudica's rebellion. And the push
north.
Into the unconquered north. And what's so striking is that these events, those centuries old, still resonate with us today.
They do.
They remind
us.
Of the enduring power of ambition.
The
complexities of conquest.
And
the resilience. Of those who resist domination. Well said.
Thank you.
And huge thanks to you.
It's been a pleasure.
For guiding us through this fascinating deep dive into the Roman invasion of Britain.
Fascinating period.
And to our listeners.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. On this journey. Through time. We hope you've enjoyed exploring the hidden depths of this pivotal period in history. And if this has sparked your curiosity, we encourage you to delve deeper into the sources we've discussed. To explore the many books and articles that shed light on this fascinating period.
So much to learn.
There's always more to discover.
There is.
Always more to learn.
And be sure to subscribe to The Deep Dive.
Yes.
For more explorations.
Of
history's mysteries.
And
untold stories.
Untold stories.
Until next time. Keep exploring.
Keep
questioning.
And keep the flame of curiosity
burning
bright.